My guest today is Russ Roberts, the Transportation Security Administration's Assistant Administrator and Chief Information Officer. Russ, welcome back to the program. I think the last time we were on the show was April 2018, so a lot has changed over the last 2 years, and a lot has changed over the last about 6 or 7 months, so there's a lot to talk to. So let's just jump right in. Russ, start us off. TSA strategy for digital transformation. Give me a sense of what it looks like and what's involved.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. Well, I always start with the first thing that my top priority is always stability. You know, being a counterterrorism organization, the number one responsibility for me is to make sure our systems are operational, that they're secure, and they continue to service the American people and the traveling public. So that's number one. You ask about digital transformation, and for us, there's really a couple of elements, but it's really keeping pace with the application of new technology and delivering that to the customer to drive the mission forward. It's built on really two principles. One, the ability to engage our customers and envision how technology can help them. A lot of times they think they know or they don't, but it's for us to have those folks in place to help them, point them down the road in solving their problems. And two is to deliver it with speed and agility. Obviously, efficiency, the right price and get that stuff done, but put that technology in their hands quickly so that they can be effective and move the mission forward. We built a digital services team about a year ago to help with that effort. And that's a group of folks that are engineers and software specialists and developers and security specialists and folks who know how to run programs to kind of cut through the red tape so they can get right in the hands of sort of like a triage operation, to get right in the hands of with the customers and help them walk through, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What is the capability that you need that you don't have, or you need a little bit more of this, and to put that small team on with, important projects and not burden them with all the other process and all the responsibilities that the rest of my organization has, to get out there. And then when they start to build that what if, then the rest of that team will come in and help, and we can deliver things quickly in an Agile DevSecOps manner. We've got a great customer service team already at TSA, but what I wanted to be able to do is sort of triage big things that come up. And they come up all the time in the world of federal CIOs. Somebody needs something. COVID's a great example when we go to talk about that. But the ability to put people on it, just grab that team, maybe have a design studio effort to talk about, get whiteboards up, and start at the 50,000 foot level, move ourselves down. What's the problem you have? Help walk them and facilitate them through that. And what would you like to be able to do? And then figure out what technologies that are out there can support it. And we try and keep these people on the cutting edge of technology, knowing what's out there. They're sort of a little bit different track from the rest of my office. And then sometimes we have to reel them in a little because there are some things we have to do. But I want the big thinkers to be able to come up with those. And sometimes you challenge people to be the big thinker and think about it and ask me why 3 times why I can't do something. And that was the idea behind digital transformation. Our administrator is fantastic, and that's the way he thinks. So, listening to him a few times, I said, we need to be able to react quickly to things that are truly priorities, and make sure they're priorities, make sure we can fund them, but make sure we understand the technology implications and whether we can do it and how quickly we can do it. And that's sort of the puzzle piece that we brought in, and we've been really successful with some major deliveries in a short period of time.
And when we talk about major deliveries in a short period of time, that's where the DevSecOps or Agile development side. You said you at TSA were maybe a little slower than others with it, but you wanted to see how things went. But now, as you said, no more waterfall development. That's a huge, huge success story. Walk me through where you guys are at in terms of delivering capabilities. I know every project is different, but do you have a sense of we're trying to do it every 2 weeks, every month, when you talk about Agile and DevSecOps?
Sure. So, it used to be 6 months would be rapid development. And really you're talking about a year and 2 years. And when you got down to the end of that, it never worked the way you wanted it to work. So for us, I didn't say we necessarily started slow. We were cautious. And I believe, if I could steal something from 3 other CIOs, I can make it a little bit better. So I like to find out, make sure those, we started out with, we don't trust the cloud, right? We were all there. I'm sure when you had this conversation 5 years ago, half of us didn't trust the cloud. Now we all trust the cloud. So maybe somewhere in the middle is the right place to be. But understanding what those requirements are, the DevSecOps. I drove it, we started with two-month agile delivery. We were driving that to 3 weeks. And so we've pretty much gotten that across the board. And, we had to work with our acquisition and our contracts professionals to teach them. They had to learn just like we did. The deliverables are different under an agile contract than what they are otherwise. And so we learned together. Teamwork was really important. We had great support there. So that's how we moved the agency. And sometimes it was slower than others. But, when I laid out there, we're a SaaS first organization, we're going to be agile. And like I said, we started with 2 months. Every 8 weeks, I want to be delivering capability. We're now down in most cases to 3 weeks, and in some cases less than that. So it's been very successful.
Absolutely a great success story. We hear a lot about people saying, oh, we're in DevSecOps, we're doing agile development. And then when you pull back the layer, you pull back the sheet, you go, oh, that's really waterfall with that sheet on top that says DevSecOps or agile. It sounds like by delivering capabilities that often, you are in true agile form. And I want to talk a little bit about that technology transformation team a little bit more. What are the types of people that are on it, the digital transformation team? What types of people on it? How big is the team? How do they decide on priorities? Walk me through a little bit about their, if you will, the way they're set up.
Sure, it's a pretty small team, but they bring in other disciplines as they need it. I've got the engineers on there. I've got the development folks on there. I've got the cyber folks on there. I've got people who understand program management on the team. Those are some of the core people. I've got folks that are really good at getting out a whiteboard and helping to hammer out what are your real requirements? What is it your real, what's broken, or what do you need to do that you can't do today? Those kinds of things. Are you trying to make it more efficient? Are you trying to cost less? Are you trying to get out of a data? Those kinds of things. But really, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and what's the capability? And they cut through that pretty quickly. And what I found and I didn't come from the technology side. I ran mostly the operations side, whether it was the terrorism for the agency and the program management. I started a lot of the programs. We really didn't know how to do that. We thought we knew how to do that. And I think we've gotten a lot better at that with design studio ability to get to really what are the requirements. And used to be they'd tell us what technology they wanted. And today, obviously, we're try to get away from that. Sometimes we already have something. When you're in the cloud and you have licenses and you're doing SaaS, you probably got some of it already built. You could probably leverage. You don't need to build a brand new case management system. You're going to build off of what you already have. And then you really start to get efficiencies of scale there as well as speed. And you've learned every time you build something, you learn something and you do it a little bit better the next time. I'd like to say we're perfect with getting the cyber on the front end. We're much better. I think we're still learning from others. We're learning from ourselves. That is always our goal, is to not try and bolt cyber on at the back, to bolt it on at the front. But cyber is a unique world. There's always something new around the corner. There's a new requirement. And then we have to be agile at how we do that as well. And at the end of the day, as the authorizing official, I sign and say we're willing to take that risk. So there's always a little bit of give and take in this. But the great thing about being in technology is you get to help everybody. That's the most fulfilling piece. I can help you. If we've got the money, and we've got the time, we can definitely help everybody in the organization.
One of the things that occurs to me as you talk about the digital transformation team, and they're hoping to, instead of wait to be told what technologies or wait to find what technologies, are they on the ground? Are they in airports? Or are they in TSA facilities asking or watching, observing? So a good example is there's a whole big move to digital identity vetting. There's a whole idea of verification. Are they there saying to the TSOs or whomever, hey, is that an issue? Hey, can I help you? Like how does it all come together?
So it's a little of both. We've got some really smart folks in there. So sometimes they come to us and we think it's a great candidate to go into that team to look at it. Or I'm in a meeting, I hear the administrator say something. I say, let's get some smart people to start thinking about that. And we'll go out and do the hunt team to find the right people for them to work with. And sometimes, let's talk a little about, I think we'll come back to the COVID thing, but, one of the requirements at all of our airports, we talked a little about 450 airports before. I've got, 45,000 people all around the country and in some cases throughout the world at different offices. And that's a big footprint. And those screeners that the public comes in contact with each and every day at those airports, we were really living in the past with how they scheduled their shift bids. We're in the federal government, so it's based on seniority. And then also leave. You would sign out for leave bids. There wasn't a lot of real-time ability to change. And before COVID hit, those folks would come in twice a year. They'd get their uniform on. And they'd come into the office based on seniority. They'd get a schedule. They'd walk in the door, and up on the wall would be giant charts of available shifts. And the same thing with leave. These were different meetings. Or it'd be on a spreadsheet somewhere, and they'd look to see what wasn't crossed out, and they'd pick it. Well, obviously, when COVID hit and it was time to do that, you got large airports. You don't want all those people coming in the same room. Meanwhile, we're challenged within the federal government that bring your own device, is pretty much a no-no. So we had to look at the data. How could we get that process out to them on their own laptops, on their own mobile devices that weren't federal devices, and be able to get in on their schedule and take a look at only the things that are left available to them, select it, and never have to go into the office. So the digital services team did that. We started with a schedule bid. They went in, and in less than 30 days from that very first meeting, we'd finished developing all the requirements, all the code. We did this in Salesforce, all the testing. We went out and tested it at three different airports. We got the thumbs up. It was deployed to all the airports in less than 30 days. It was actually done in, I think, about 26 days, which was monumental. Not every airport used it. Some of the very small ones didn't need it. They did it via phone, but all the big airports, and it was a huge success. We followed that up with doing the same thing for leave bid. And that digital services team, we just made sure it was secure, made sure no sensitive data was at risk. So everything was behind the curtain, and nothing on their devices was sensitive, other than they were able to see the shifts that were still available and things like that. So it was hugely successful, and of course it kept everybody safe. And so that was a big success for the digital services team.
I imagine at that point you knew you were on the right track with the Agile, with the digital services team. You may have known it before, but it's if not, it refreshed your belief. Oh yes, we are doing the right thing. That's a great success story.
Yeah, my constraints are not with things to do. My constraints are with like everybody else, the resources, and that's the money and the people to do it. We built a number of other things, and we're very successful. It's really is, do you have the time and money to do it? Can you operate the O&M funds in the back end? Because that's one of my biggest challenges is, budget. Budget's a big challenge. You probably hear that over and over again from CIOs. And you've got to prioritize what you can do.
I do, always about budget. And Russ, we're going to talk more about those issues and some of the success you had, and we'll jump into that COVID topic when we come back. But first, let's take a quick break. My guest today is Russ Roberts, the Transportation Security Administration's Chief Information Officer. I'm Jason Miller, and you're listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by NEC Corporation on Federal News Network.